Coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What Studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Make your next thing a big one. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. My daughter's birthday. Number 1, U.S. coronavirus death toll hits 200,000. That the U.S. COVID-19 death toll surpassed 200,000 on Tuesday, crossing a threshold once estimated to be the maximum number of fatalities the country would suffer in the coronavirus pandemic. Some public health experts now fear the total could be nearly twice as high by the end of the year. Quote, I hoped we'd, let me start that over. Quote, I hope we would be in a better place by now, end quote, said Caitlin Rivers, an epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Quote, it's an enormous and tragic loss of life, end quote. Bob Bendazarzik, assistant professor of global health and epidemiology at Emory University in Atlanta, said many of the deaths probably could have been prevented by more widespread wearing of masks, face masks, and stricter adherence to social distancing recommendations. Quote, we really have not done enough to control this pandemic, and we are experiencing a tremendous amount of unnecessary suffering, end quote. Benarzik said, worldwide, more than 31 million cases have been confirmed, with 965,000 deaths. This is according to NPR. Number 2, Romney supports SCOTUS vote, clearing path to confirmation. Senator Mitt Romney, Republican Utah, announced Tuesday that he would support Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, in advancing the confirmation process for President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, virtually eliminating any chance Democrats will have the 4 GOP votes. They need to block the confirmation from proceeding. Only 2 Republicans, Senators Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, have come out against filling the late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat before the election. Democrats have said that the winner of the November presidential election should get to pick the next justice. Romney, a frequent Trump critic, argued that the party controlling the Senate historically has confirmed justices appointed during election years when a member of their party was in the White House. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Number 3, White House passes compromise on averting government shutdown. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on Tuesday reached a deal on a proposal to avert a government shutdown. The House promptly passed the bipartisan bill 359 to 57. The legislation would keep the government funded through December 11th. It includes tens of billions of dollars for the Commodity Credit Corporation to aid farmers, a priority for Republicans and farm state lawmakers. Democrats left that funding out of their original proposal because of concerns the Trump administration has previously used the funding to divert money to its supporters. The new bill includes restrictions to prevent that. The bill also includes nearly $8 billion in nutrition assistance that Democrats pushed in negotiations. This is according to CNN. Number 4, Louisville declares emergency ahead of Breonna Taylor decision. Louisville, Kentucky Mayor Greg Fisher on Tuesday declared a state of emergency and closed down much of his city's center to traffic ahead of an expected grand jury decision on whether to indict the police officers involved in the fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor, a black medical worker. Quote, our goal with these steps is ensuring space and opportunity for potential protesters to gather and express their First Amendment rights, end quote. Fisher, a white Democrat, said in a statement, Taylor, 26, was in her home when 3 plainclothes officers with a so-called no-knock warrant forced their way into Taylor's home with a battering ram. Her boyfriend, thinking intruders were breaking in, fired a shot, and the officers responded with a flurry of gunfire, hitting Taylor 5 times. This is according to Reuters. Number 5, CIA. Putin is probably directing operation to denigrate Biden. A top secret CIA assessment concluded that Russian President Vladimir Putin and other top Russian officials are, quote, probably directing an effort to influence the U.S. presidential election. The Washington Post reported Tuesday, citing 2 people who reviewed it. Russia is focused on, quote, denigrating, end quote, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, supporting President Trump, and, quote, fueling public discord, end quote. The first line of the assessment says, according to the Post's sources, the, quote, internal, highly classified, end quote, assessment reportedly was completed with National Security Agency and FBI input and published on August 31st. William Evanina, director of the National Counterintelligence and Security Center, said in August that, quote, some Kremlin-linked actors are also seeking to boost President Trump's candidacy on social media and Russian television, end quote. This is according to the Washington Post and CNN. Number 6, reports. Pentagon diverted coronavirus funding to defense contractors. The Pentagon used $1 billion Congress allocated for medical equipment to pay defense contractors for such things as jet engine parts, body armor, and dress uniforms, the Washington Post reported on Tuesday. The money was approved earlier this year as part of the CARES Act to help the Defense Department, quote, prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, end quote. The Pentagon diverted the money even though health officials believe the nation has gaps in funding needed for the pandemic response. Many hospitals face N95 mask shortages, and Robert Redfield, director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, told the Senate last week that states need $6 billion to be able to get vaccines to Americans in early 2021. Pentagon officials said they tried to strike a balance between supporting U.S. medical production and supporting the defense industry. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 7, commission unveils topic in first Trump-Biden debate. The debate commission revealed Tuesday that the plan for the first presidential debate between President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden includes discussions of the coronavirus pandemic, the Supreme Court, and America's racial reckoning. Trump has said he's preparing by, quote, just doing what I'm doing, end quote. Biden has said he was looking forward to the September 29 forum at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, saying he wanted to hold Trump accountable. Quote, I know how to handle bullies, end quote, he said this month. The rivals showed different outlooks on the pandemic on Tuesday as the U.S. death toll reached 200,000. Trump downplayed the damage, saying the virus, quote, affects virtually nobody, end quote, mostly hurting the elderly and people with other health problems. Biden said the nation mustn't treat the numbers as statistics. Quote, we can't lose the ability to feel the sorrow and the loss and the anger for so many lives lost, end quote, he said. This is according to CNN and Newsweek. Excuse me. Number 8, UK imposes new restrictions after coronavirus surge. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Tuesday announced new COVID-19 restrictions to curb a spike in new cases. The new measures include limited hospitality industry hours, expanded face mask requirements, and a ban on gatherings of more than 6 people. Johnson also encouraged people to work from home. The British government on Monday reported the highest daily number of new COVID-19 cases since May, with 4,300 infections, 4 times as many as the country saw a month ago. Quote, "We've reached a perilous turning point," end quote, Johnson said. He added that the government would, quote, "spare no effort," end quote, to develop vaccines and implement mass testing. But unless the country makes significant progress, quote, "we should assume," end quote, "the restrictions will remain in place for 6 months. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 9, Bloomberg raises $16 billion to help Florida felons regain right to vote. Billionaire Mike Bloomberg on Tuesday raised $16 billion to help Florida felons pay off fines, restitution, and court fees to help them regain their voting rights in time for the November election. Just days earlier, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, won a court victory preventing felons from voting until they pay off the debts. Florida voters passed Amendment 4 in 2018, allowing felons who have served their prison sentences to regain the right to vote. But Republican state lawmakers passed a law defining a completed sentence to include the payment of all fines and restitution. Before Bloomberg stepped in, the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition had raised about $5 million to help 32,000 Florida felons who owe less than $1,500. Bloomberg, a former Democratic presidential hopeful, said the effort was intended to help, quote, "end disenfranchisement and the discrimination that has always driven it," end quote. This is according to the Sun Sentinel and The Hill. Number 10, CDC, avoid traditional trick-or-treating this Halloween. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention released guidelines on celebrating Halloween during the COVID-19 pandemic, warning that many of the holiday's activities, quote, "can be high risk for spreading viruses," end quote. The CDC lists, quote, "traditional trick-or-treating," end quote, as a higher risk activity and recommends avoiding it. Other activities say it should be avoided this year, including attending a crowded indoor costume party and going to a crowded indoor haunted house. Quote, "lower risk," end quote, activities include carving or decorating pumpkins with those in your household or outside with others while practicing social distancing, as well as holding a, quote, "virtual Halloween costume contest," end quote. Additionally, quote, "one-way trick-or-treating," end quote, lining up goodie bags so families can grab them while socially distant, is considered a, quote, "moderate risk," end quote, activity. This is according to USA Today. That's 10 things you need to know today for Wednesday, September 23rd, my daughter's birthday, 2020. Thank you so much for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. I'm KeysDAN, trying to get smarter, trying to fill my brain with knowledge, keep up on current events. Don't make my podcast the only source of news for you. Don't do it, because I'm a moron, really. Make sure that you look up the footnotes and, find out more information on your own. Hopefully this kind of just starts the ball rolling. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. And if you want to watch me do some online game streaming, find me everywhere. Well, find me at least on 3 places using the hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. I'm on YouTube, Facebook Gaming, and Twitch. Yeah, those are the primary spots that I do streaming. And I'm streaming daily. How about that? How'd that be? I don't know what game I'm playing. I played Fantasy Online 2 recently. That was pretty cool. And I've been playing Fortnite, trying to get to the top. The closest I've been is number 2. I stay pretty regularly in the top 10 on Fortnite. So I don't even know why I'm talking about that on this podcast. This is a totally different thing. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.